When it comes to new construction, most people see floor plans and nice model homes and figure they know enough. But with Beazer, and really any of our builders, we've got to dig deeper. And personally, I always start at the same place. I want to know a builder has deep pockets and whether they have staying power. History is a big part of that, and Beazer's roots actually go back to England more than 300 years ago, where the original company began. In 1985, Beazer Home started here in the US. Well, today they're building across 13 states, okay? We're talking from, California to Maryland, Florida, and of course, Texas. So they've got a pretty good footprint there. And on top of that, Beazer sits at number 23 on the Builder 100 list. They have had 4,450 closings in 2024 alone, and their revenue is in the ballpark of $2.293 billion. So they're not just surviving here, okay? They are playing in the big leagues. So let's break it down with the big questions every smart buyer should be asking. How likely are they to be around in 5 years? Well, you're looking at long history, strong national presence, and consistent volume of closings, so the odds look excellent. Next, what recourse will you have if something goes wrong? Well, larger builders like Beazer generally have established warranty programs and a customer service infrastructure in place. So that means you're not left chasing down a single office or hoping that somebody calls you back. They've got the resources to back up their product. And finally, how financially well backed are they? Well, with billions in annual revenue and thousands of homes delivered each year, you're looking at a builder that is not likely to fold up on you mid-project. So taken together, the history, the scale, the financials, Beazer earns an easy A+ for stability and staying power. If you were just driving down the street in a Beazer community, okay, what would you see? Well, let's paint the picture, all right? You ready? The first home might have a steep multi-gabled roof line with shuttered windows and a front-facing dormer. Then you've got another option with a steep cross-gabled roof, board and batten siding, and tall windows with shutters. Another design features a stone facade, shuttered windows, and a covered entry supported by timber posts. One home has a mix of steep gables, a front-facing dormer, and a combination of brick and board and batten siding. You'll also see houses with a more traditional touch, like one with a front-facing gable, a stone accent wall, and an arched entryway. Even their townhomes bring some nice variety. Like one stands out with a steeply pitched roof line and a blend of brickwork and arched window accents. Across the board, Beazer offers a balance of both 1- and 2-story homes. Now that said, if you take a close look at their quick move-ins, you'll notice there's a heavier lean towards their 2-story models than single-story. You'll also find homes with both 2- and 3-car garage setups, so you'll have at least some flexibility in storage and parking. Let's take a closer look at some of their model homes so you can see how these designs actually come together in real life. Overall, the designs do have some variety, but it's not the most unique lineup compared to other builders we've reviewed. Their townhome styles add a little extra flavor, but overall, I would give them a grade here of a C+. When you're building a new home with Beazer, or really any builder, the first big decision you're gonna make is deciding on a floor plan. Okay, so what would that look like with Beazer? Well, Beazer's website doesn't show every single plan in one place. Okay, you're gonna have to click through by community. On average, you'll see around 6 different floor plan choices per neighborhood. As for variety, Beazer's layouts are moderately varied. You'll notice some differences in flow and key features, but it's not like every plan looks completely unique, nor do they feel like carbon copies either, okay? Now, once you decided on a floor plan, the next step is structural customization, right? Making it personal. And this is where things get interesting. Beazer includes some structural options in the base price and charges extra for others. At your most minor level, you can pick from different things like, different kitchen layouts or swapping out a large shower for a shower and tub combo. You can also add touches like a fireplace, but that is considered an upgrade. And so these changes don't really affect the framing of the house. For moderate structural choices, you've got options like shrinking the master closet to expand the bathroom, turning a dining room or study into a bedroom with an attached bath, extending the patio, or even finishing attic space into a bonus room. These involve interior framing but keep the exterior intact. Now, significant structural upgrades are more limited, okay? But you'll see things like adding a third car garage or, bumping out the master bedroom for extra space. When it comes to supreme structural customization, okay, meaning full out custom floor plans or in-house architects, Beazer doesn't advertise those kinds of services. Instead, they encourage you to work with one of their new home counselors to walk through what's possible. On the design side, Beazer gives you a pretty standard but solid range of choices. You'll get to pick flooring, tile, countertops, cabinets, paint, fixtures, faucets, a lot more. They do have in-person design studios where you'll meet with a consultant to make those selections. Though if you're looking online for a big idea gallery, the only inspiration comes from photos of model homes on their community pages. On top of the customization options, Beazer also leans hard into energy efficiency. They claim that their homes are designed to be about 40 to 50% more efficient than the average new build. So we're talking features that boost air quality, cut down on energy use, and use advanced heating and cooling systems. And they also emphasize things like solar readiness and upgraded insulation, so the house runs smarter and more cost effectively. As for lot sizes, right, the dirt that we're going to be building that home on, Beazer offers a range that depends on the community, starting in the 40-foot width range and going up to 90-foot lots in some cases. So you definitely get some flexibility in how much space you want. Overall, Beazer earns a grade of B- for customization, okay? You're gonna get a decent mix of options, but don't expect extreme variety or total creative freedom. When you're buying a new construction home, one of the biggest safety nets you wanna look at is the warranty. It's not just about how pretty the finishes are on day one, okay? It's about what happens when real life sets in, when things break, or when systems don't perform the way they should. Beazer offers a fairly standard warranty package that covers 3 different time frames depending on what part of the house you're talking about. Let's start with the basics, okay? For the first year, you're covered on craftsmanship, and that means things like finishes, paint, trim, and other details that fall under the fit and finish umbrella. So for example, if a cabinet door won't close properly, or a section of baseboard starts separating from the wall, okay, that falls under this 1-year coverage. Then you move into the 2-year systems coverage, and this one covers your home's core systems, okay, things like electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. If your air conditioner stops working in year 2, right, or if you have issues with wiring or water leaks, this is where that warranty kicks in. It's essentially saying for 2 years, the guts of the house are protected. Finally, you've got the 10-year structural warranty, and this is our long haul protection, okay? Covering the foundation, the framing, the roof structure, all of that. If something shifts, cracks, or compromises the integrity of the house, you've got coverage for a full decade. Overall, Beazer's warranty is pretty average compared to other builders. You're getting the standard 1-2-10 structure that's common across the industry. So nothing extraordinary, but nothing missing either. It earns them a solid grade of a B. If you've got your heart set on a particular floor plan with Beazer, okay, you're gonna be glad to know that many of their designs aren't limited to just one spot. On their website, you'll see that popular plans like the Alpine, the Brazos, the Meridian, okay, those pop up in multiple communities. And that means if you love a specific layout, you don't necessarily have to compromise on location. You can usually find it in more than one place. Now let's talk about how many communities we're dealing with. Beazer currently has around 23 communities listed across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that's a solid footprint. And it gives buyers a decent amount of flexibility to look for the right combination. of floor plan and location. And one thing you should know though, is while they do have strong coverage around much of the Metroplex, the southern side is noticeably lighter. In fact, they only have 2 southern communities, Goodland in the Midlothian area and Wildcat Ranch in Crandall. So if you're set on living in that part of DFW, okay, your options with Beazer are going to be limited. Outside of that southern gap though, Beazer does a pretty good job of covering the rest of the area. They're in the north with big name suburbs like Frisco, Salina, and Prosper. They're out east with places like Forney, Royce City, and Princeton. They've also got a footprint out west in Fort Worth and Denton, and even centrally located in spots like Euless. So it's not every corner of DFW, but it's a pretty wide reach overall. So to sum it up, Beazer has a good range of options across 3 sides of the Metroplex, north, east, and west. The south is where they're thin, okay, and that does create a bit of a gap. So because of that, I would give them a grade of B+ for location coverage. You got a lot of choices, okay, but you don't have full coverage everywhere. So we've already covered where Beazer builds, but the next big question is volume. How many homes do they actually have available right now? Well, if you look at their quick move-in section, Beazer shows around 200 homes for sale across the DFW area. So let's put that into perspective. With 200 quick move-ins, Beazer's inventory isn't insanely high, okay, not like some of our mega builders, but it's also not so limited that you'd feel stuck with only 1 or 2 choices. It lands in that middle ground where you've got some options, but you're still going to want to act strategically if you're hunting for a specific floor plan in a specific area. So overall, I would say that puts them at a solid like B- for volume, okay? They've got enough to give you flexibility, but not enough to flood the market or guarantee endless availability. Now let's talk about pricing, because this is where a lot of people either lean in or walk away. Beazer definitely tries to cover a decent range of buyers, including our first-time homeowners or value-minded families. Their entry-level options kick off in the low to mid 300s, which is actually fairly accessible in today's DFW market. From there, the bulk of Beazer's offerings sit in that sweet spot for middle income buyers. So if you're looking for an energy efficient home with a modern layout and you want something that feels new without breaking the bank, the $350 to like $450 range is where you're going to find the most action. These homes usually hit the right balance between affordability and functionality. For buyers who want more space or larger lots, Beazer has homes that stretch higher into that like $550 to like $700 range. So in this bracket, you're going to see more advanced features, bigger square footage, and sometimes better neighborhood amenities. Altogether, Beazer's pricing spans from about $310 on the low end to around $700 on the high end. So that is a spread of roughly $400,000. So to put that in perspective, the most affordable community they have right now is Churchill in Anna, where homes start right around $300,000. Then on the flip side, the highest priced community is Heath Golf and Yacht Club in Heath, where prices start at like $567,000 and climb into the low 700s. So how does that really stack up? Well, it gives you a good solid mid-range, something that can appeal to first-timers, growing families, and even move-up buyers, but it doesn't push into the upper echelon of the luxury market. So for that reason, I think when it's all said and done, I'd give them like a grade of a C. It's decent coverage and it's a great for a whole wide slice of buyers, but if you're looking for high-end luxury customization or $1 million builds, okay, Beazer is not the builder to deliver it. Let's take a look at reviews, okay, because this is where you really start to see how people feel once they've gone through the process. One of Beazer's highest rated communities is Lake Point in Little Elm, which currently holds a perfect 5.0 rating based on 5 reviews. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Spiritus Ranch, also in Little Elm, has the lowest score, a 1.0 rating with 3 reviews. The feedback is definitely mixed, and the contrast between the good and the bad is pretty dramatic. Like, for example, one homeowner at the Villages of Hurricane Creek left a scathing 1-star review describing their experience as a nightmare. They said they felt rushed and dismissed during the design studio process, as if the staff just wanted to leave for the day. They also pointed out multiple mistakes in their design selections. Most notably, they paid for wooden stairs with a spiral feature, but ended up with carpet instead. And when they brought it up, the builder explained that that option had been discontinued, even though it was still written into the contract. And then on top of that, they ran into major construction issues. The roof bubbled, leaks developed, and at one point, rain poured into the house because the roof wasn't covered properly. The result was water damage, flooding, and a delayed move-in that forced them into costly month-to-month rent. So their bottom line, poor workmanship, poor communication, and an overall miserable experience. Now, contrast that with a 5-star review from Lake Point, where another buyer had the complete opposite journey. They praised their sales rep and building manager by name, saying both were attentive, kind, and consistently kept them updated throughout construction. The weekly updates gave them confidence. Their realtor and inspector were impressed with the quality, and the final walkthrough showed only a handful of tiny cosmetic issues, something the inspector said was rare. This buyer said they almost had gone with another builder, Lennar, but felt that they got much more value with Beazer. They wrapped up by saying they love their home and highly recommend the team. So when you pull back and look at the overall numbers, here's what you see. 68 reviews are 4.5 stars or higher. 32 reviews fall at 4.4 or lower, and that's out of a total of 19 community reviews we counted in this snapshot. So that ends up working out to about 68% of all reviews landing in the 4.5 or higher category. So overall, that's strong enough to earn a B+ grade. Okay, let's talk about contracts now, because this is where the fine print really matters. And let's start off by talking about before the contract starts, because this is really ugly. Beazer requires money to change hands before they'll even submit your offer to management. Yeah, you heard me right. Before you even know if your offer will be accepted, okay, much less having the chance to review the contract it's written on, they expect you to shell out a deposit. All right, you don't know any of the contingencies for when or why you could get your deposit back, but they still expect you to pay it. So that is a big no in my book. Beazer's agreement also states that if you can't close on time, they can keep your deposit. Like most contracts are gonna charge you a late fee if you can't close on time. Well, with them, there isn't a per day fee or extra penalty spelled out. With the Beazer contract, it's really an all or nothing consequence. Next, let's look at the convenience clause. The contract specifically states that Beazer may, at its sole discretion, terminate the agreement for any reason by refunding the earnest money to the buyer. And that means Beazer reserves the right to walk away from the deal without giving you a cause. So this kind of clause is pretty powerful on their side because it keeps them in control all the way up to closing. There's also a clause that gives Beazer the right to make substitutions in your home without your approval. The contract says the seller can substitute materials or finishes with equal or better quality at their discretion without notifying the buyer. So if you picked a specific finish or product, Beazer could replace it with something different as long as they say it's equal or better. So remember, that was one of the complaints on that 1-star Google review. The builder put in carpet instead of wood, saying they didn't have the wood option anymore. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't consider carpet to be an equal substitute for wood. Overall, Beazer's contract has a lot of the usual basics you'd expect, but having to pay for a deposit before you ever view the contract, okay, that's a hard no for me. Plus the ability to swap out materials without your consent, yeah, I would give their contracts a D, and personally, I would call that being generous. Now, on a personal note, we just had a pretty bad experience with Beazer that may or may not be typical for their company, but I want you to know about it anyway. One of our clients received an email advertising what sounded like a blockbuster rate deal, a 3-2-1 buy down stacked on top of a forward commitment. So on paper, it looked incredible, okay? 1.99% the first year, 2.99% the second, and 3.99% the third. And then it's locked in at 4.99% for the rest of the loan. Well, that is one of the most aggressive incentive packages you can find. And the ad even highlighted the exact community our buyers were interested in. So we called to get the details for our clients, and the story had changed. Suddenly the home our buyers had their eye on didn't qualify. The only way they could get the advertised buy down was by tacking another $20,000 onto the price of the house. So we asked the obvious follow-up, okay, well, which homes do qualify? Okay, their answer was none. Not a single property in the community was actually eligible. The only path to that shiny incentive was agreeing to raise the purchase price they were advertising by $20,000. So at that point, okay, this was feeling a lot less like a special and more like a bait and switch. And when we pushed back, the sales rep immediately pointed out the select homes verbiage in the fine print. So even though the ad specifically called out my client's neighborhood, right on top of that, they were telling our buyers to pay a deposit, right, before they could even submit an offer. So at that point, our buyers decided to pass. So our impression was that Beazer did not come across as a company you could trust. Okay, so just when you thought you had Beazer Homes all figured out, hopefully now you know the real risk isn't what you know, okay, it's what you don't know before signing a contract. Now, if you found this breakdown helpful, okay, I've got an entire playlist of builder reviews waiting for you right here. Check it out, and I'll see you there.